Your posture's right, but I'm all leaning back, chilling.
I mean, you can do that. You're old foul.
Chilling the cut.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm with a leader of all leaders, a mentor of mine, somebody I hold in high regard. We call him Tyni, but he's like 7 feet tall. He had to duck when he came in the office.
Kind of scrunched up under the table here.
Yeah, we're not playing footsies, but I'm trying to fight for
I'm
my
right
space.
in there. I'm right in there.
Lieutenant Colonel Tysen, Pina. Sir, what's going on?
Chilling, man. I'm glad to be here.
No, I'm glad you took time out to do this right now because you are like all over the place, getting ready to PCS to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I hate to even say that because you're leaving JSTARS, headed to AWACS.
Yep.
But you've been to AWACS before.
I have, and I have a 6-month deployment there under my belt, and it's funny as you go between platforms, and as much as everything is the same, things are different too, and it's nice to be able to get all of the things because it grows you as an individual, you know. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to grow. Not that I didn't want to be here and bloom here, because JSTARS is my family, but my extended family is over there at AWACS, and hopefully they're excited that I'm coming too, because I'm excited to go there and see what kind of opportunities Tinker has.
Yeah. So absolutely, I want to. Right. Absolutely, I want to talk about kind of your journey.
Sure.
I know you've been AWACS, you've been JSTARS, you've been an instructor down at Tyndall.
Yeah.
Doghouse.
Kind
of talk about, because there's what I'm learning is there is no cookie cutter journey for an air battle manager.
That's a fact.
And it's kind of insane because as a force support officer, before obviously cross training, there was kind of ish a path. Right. You OIC, flight commander, exec, maybe exec again.
Right.
Flight commander. Get to that major level,
then
you're looking at DO
right
before taking command. So it's kind of not for everybody, but there's kind of a general-ish path.
Yeah, and that's kind of nice because it's comfortable, right?
It is.
You know what's expected of you, and as long as you check those boxes, you're good.
Yeah,
and we kind of have that too. You know, there's a path. Like if you just want to be JSTARS and you just want to be AWACS, and you can do that. But it's for the smaller percentage of people that just want to go out and do other things, like just to know that that's possible. It absolutely is. And while I am a jack of all trade, I'm a master of none, and that's good and bad. That's come with many like positives, just absolute blessings, especially when it comes to the circle of people that I know. And mentors that I've been able to attach myself to, and people that I've been able to mentor, it's C2ISR heavy around. And I've even been in a fighter squadron, which is really cool. And so those experiences, like I get to have them, but then I get to pay them forward, when I talk to other people, and it's like, well, here's what I did. Maybe that helps you because I've been blessed. Let me pass that down and keep it going, So I've been really thankful. We have a plaque at home, and it says, "Home is where the Air Force sends us." And that thing is hitting the floor because we've been to so many places. The first time we've been anywhere for a second time is here at Robbins, when we got here for the first time in 10 years. And so between Robbins the first time, let's see, it was Robbins the first time, down to Tyndall, kicking and screaming to Tinker. But my squadron commander was right. He was like, I need you to get this experience under your belt. And it was awesome. Enjoyed that. Out to AFCENT to work for General Brown, which was awesome. Name drop. And that was really cool. And that was Colonel ROG at the time pushed me for that. He said, you know what, this is going to be a great experience for you. And what's funny about that is my wife, I call her because I think she's going to be that offensive lineman that gets in the way and is like, no, you're not going anywhere. But my wife was like, hey, if Colonel Tysen says that you need to go somewhere, you need to go. And I was like, you're supposed to be like, no, don't go. I can't live without you. I can't do it. No, not her. And it was cool. So I went out. While I was gone, we had our second kid, at our, like right at my midpoint. So, you know, she's handling all that at home. And she's a trooper. So it takes a team. So we'll get back to that later. But, that experience, then went and worked in a fighter squadron out in Vegas, which was real cool. Went to Kansas and worked with the Army for school, and then back to Robbins. So it's just been all over the United States doing different things. And it's just, I'm so fortunate to be able to do that.
That is, you just literally summed up a 17-year career in like 3 minutes.
In the booth.
But people don't see those difficult times, those hard times.
Oh, that's a fact.
Because it is definitely a grind.
Yeah.
Like 100%. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, like, at all.
Yeah.
And I would caution anybody, not even caution them, right? But I would make sure you know, well, you can't really know what you're getting into.
You can't.
Before you get into it.
So, I don't know. I was chatting with a group. It's probably last month. I think it was last month. And I said the notorious phrase, bloom where you're planted.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because you've heard that before.
Yeah.
Many people have said it before, but it makes sense, you know. And especially now that I've been to so many different places, like, ooh, what are you going to do? You left the Robbins tribe and now you're going to AWACS. You're going to disappear there. No one knows you there. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to do the best you can. You're going to try to excel. And even if you're not getting the shine, you're going to try to get the shine for, you know, the people that are working around you. And hopefully people see that. And I was blessed, and someone did. My squadron commander was like, "Oh, I see your records. Let me try to squeeze you in here." And then once I got that opportunity, now it's on me again. I need to crush that opportunity that's ahead of me, you know? And we did pretty good there, you know? And then we got another opportunity, and all of a sudden I'm meeting Colonel Goebel in the desert, and he wants, you know, to create a squadron. And it's like, cool, I'm with that. Let's do that, you know? And our crew was awesome, and we did some good work out there. And so that was seen, and all of a sudden you're the wing exec. I'm the worst admin, like, so bad at hold on, let me look at the camera. I am so bad at admin. And the wing commander on the interview says, "Hey, Tyni, why do you want to be the wing exec?" And I was like, "Sir, I don't." And there's silence. Okay. And luckily, Colonel Bickley is an amazing leader. And he asked me, he's like, "Okay, cool. Do you see any benefits of having this job?" And I said, "Absolutely. Sir, I would like to be a squadron commander one day. And there's no better way to learn the admin that I need to know to take care of my people than if I'm up there helping you take care of your admin. And that would be such a benefit to be able to learn that and then pass it on to build people through paperwork. Because let's not get it twisted. That's how we get things done in the Air Force. Because I can love on you all I want, but if I can't get you promoted, then what have I done? Right? I have to be able to put you in the right places at the right time in order for you to succeed. That's how I show my level of care for you, right? So I have to be able to get your paperwork straight in order to get that done, right? I have to be able to put you in the right jobs at the right time in order to build you up and give you the experiences you need to take my place one day. So I needed that. I didn't realize how much I needed that until I was on the ones and twos, and the man was asking me the question, you know? And so I was on the spot, and I gave him the answer. But still, being me, I was like, "But, sir, I got a C in English at the academy. You do not want me editing your documents." And he's like, "Cool." So we talked about football for about an hour. He's a Steelers fan. Bless his heart, you know. Great dude, but he's a Steelers fan.
I'm a Steelers fan.
Bless your heart, bro. That's cool. And you're black and gold. Like, that just works all the way.
Yeah, it does.
Listen. But I got hired, you know, because they saw something, and that's awesome. And so then it was that opportunity, and now I had to learn admin in a crunch because you can't mess it up there. I mean, I did, but I tried to learn and mess up less every day. And I'm so thankful for that leadership team, Colonel Bickley and Colonel Humphrey. just two amazing individuals. And Colonel Humphreys would bring me in his office, and I'd get the counseling because, you know, I'm a smiley, nice guy. Colonel Humphreys was scary. He was a scary dude, and he loved the fact that he was a scary dude. And he's like, Tyni, listen, sometimes you have to be that scary dude because it's right for your people. So I was able to take that from him, you know, like I'm never going to be him. I'm never going to be able to just strike fear in people with a look because I've worked my entire life. I'm 6'8" and black, okay? I have to soften my tone a little bit when I walk into a convenience store at 2 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Like there are other things outside of the Air Force that have affected my personality. But it's also worked in the Air Force because it's my job to also connect on a one-on-one level and not be 6'8" and not be intimidating and be able to communicate with an A1C. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And that's important. And building that trust and building that rapport, that's how I lead, right? So I can't just be like knife handing people all up and down the road because that's not how I'm effective. But it's important for me to see that perspective, and he was able to give that. And Colonel Bickley was just, I mean, even keeled, you know? And I respected that too. Like he didn't get angry because I messed up sometimes. I'm just going to throw that out there. I messed up. But he bring me in his office and go, Tyni, you know, this is the way we get it done. Here's what I need to happen. I trust you to make that happen. Trust. Copy that, sir. I'm out. And I'd move out and try to fix whatever it was that I messed up. And it's cool because you have to have room to grow. So that opportunity was amazing. And then, of course, I told you, Colonel Tysen said, hey, with that wing exec experience, now I need to send you off. I need you to go to work at Absent. And I got that job, and that was cool too. And staff is a different beast, and it's more admin. And I've never written more papers in my life. It's like being in college, just constantly. But it was traveling all over the Middle East. It was, I mean, what a cool experience. And who knew it was going to be the future chief of staff I was writing speeches for? Like, that's dope. What a great dude. But he did, I will tell you this, he did make me realize I'm never going to be a 3-star.
What happened?
Okay, so all right. That man is so smart. General Brown is
light years.
Like the smartest individual I have ever been around in my life. And let me just tell you that, you know, knowing his story before he even got there, I was kind of a fanboy. Mm. Okay. So one of my good friends was his aide, and he would, whenever he went on leave or whatever, I would be the temporary aide, which if I wasn't ready to be an exec because of my admin, like I'm not aide type material, and I'm okay with that. But, you know, in a pinch, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
You know? And he ran me up. He's like, okay, as soon as the boss leaves, you go into his office, you vacuum the floor, you get things just right, turn off all the monitors, make sure the Dr. Peppers are faced the right way. And then you clean his keyboard and whatever. And I'm like, okay. Like, that's not my cup of tea. You know, I'm not, I'll get it done though. So for a week or whatever, it was cool. But also it's drive him to his engagements and do all that. So one time we're driving to an engagement, and, you know, I can't help myself. Like, I'm a huge fan of this guy. So I go, hey, sir, what's it like to be the CFAC? Oh, man, I can't believe I just asked that question, right? Like, I just went super fanboy on the 3-star as his aide. And he goes, Tyni, it's pretty cool. He goes, I don't often get a chance to just sit back and think about it, but it's pretty awesome, you know? And he goes, but I know that these stars are borrowed. Like, these stars are not me. They're not who I am. I know that I could wake up one morning and something happened somewhere in this AOR that I had no control over. And it's time for me to give up these stars. They're not who I am. But I sleep well at night because I empower my leaders to do great things, to take risks, and to get the job done every day. So as long as I'm doing that, I've done my job. I was like, how did that great answer come from a terrible question?
I think a lot of times we just get in our head, you know. You just gave me like 3 of the best questions ever. So I'm gonna backtrack it. Obviously, we got to touch on the family thing. Super huge because we talk about family and work-life balance all the time. But you brought up being 6'8", black, and how to maneuver, I would say, in and out of uniform.
Right.
Because it is very different for certain people.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, even myself, I find myself in uniform, I can be a little bit more free,
Right.
Move a little different
Yeah.
versus, or even with an Air Force shirt on.
Yeah.
I can move a little different.
It's true.
Especially being 5 miles from an Air Force base
Right.
at Publix, Bun Air. Right?
Every day, Middle Georgia's Air Force Appreciation Day, and that is true. I love Middle Georgia. I don't know what camera to look at. I love Middle Georgia. Like, we always had visioned retiring here in Middle Georgia because it's a great place to be, you know. But you're true. Everything hits different when you're in uniform.
And I am a black hoodie type of guy.
Sure.
So the looks you get, and sometimes it's not even looks, it's just demeanor, is the tone is different.
Yeah.
Things are 100% different out of uniform.
Sure.
How do you cope and deal with that?
So I told my squadron, because we had a down day one time, and when all of the BLM stuff hit, I was actually getting heart surgery, but everything worked out. It was fine. So when I got back, the commander wanted me to get in front, and first of all, one of the things he said was, "I just don't feel qualified to be talking about this, you know, as a white dude." And what I told him was, I never want to hear that again, because the fact that you want to have the conversation is awesome, and I applaud that. And the fact that you are coming from a different perspective, that's amazing, and that means the world to not only me but everyone else, and is so cool. And to me, is about opening these doors. So I appreciate that you, with me out of pocket, still had the conversation. I'm more than willing to have it again, but thank you for not sitting around. Thank you for having the conversation, because it's all about conversations, you know. It's all about, you know, different perspectives. So on that, I told a story. Like, everywhere I go, I'm a golfer. See, Titleist. If they see this, hopefully I get a sponsorship, but no big deal. I like to check out new golf courses whenever I go to my new bases, and there's always a similar rhythm and a similar pattern to it. And it's, ooh, who's that guy? You know, kind of slow looks, like a little leery, whatever. And then it's, because I always go to the group, because there's always a group that plays on Saturday morning. So I always want to be in that group, because there's always great competitors in that group. And, you know, after giving up basketball probably 8 times, I think I retired from basketball 8 times. Even though I played again in 2019, and we won the Southeastern Military Athletic Conference Championship. Yeah, all I do is win, no big deal. But I retired again, and whenever I retire from basketball, I go to golf, because it allows me to be competitive but not hurt myself in my old age. Because I have like 3 gray hairs right here. That's how I know I'm old.
Yeah.
But it's the same rhythm, you know. It's like leery, kind of an acceptance, like, okay, we get out on the course, we play 18 holes. It's a great experience every time, right? And then those individuals that I play with talk to other individuals, and, you know, I don't want to say it's he's one of the good ones type situation, but everything warms up at that point. And after playing the next week and it's confirmed, all of a sudden things change. Like, I'm just one of the guys, and it's usually not just one of the guys. It's usually Tyni, and it's cool. And I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, but it always makes me wonder, would it be different if, you know? And so,
like, when you say if, what do you mean by that? Like, if you were shorter,
a little lighter complected, right? Like, if it was different, because I don't know, because it's a blind spot of mine too. So I fully recognize that I only know my experience, right? And I think that's the most important part of all of this, is that we are only really familiar with what we are intimately familiar. And we have to make exertions to get out there and learn what life is like for someone that's different from us. So an example of that to me is when my wife was pregnant with my son, Avin. Great dude, amazing kid. Okay. she was also in the Air Force, and her boss went out of his way while she was pregnant to make sure she was good, right? Her feet swelled or whatever. He's like, why are you still wearing boots? I authorize you to wear sneakers. Like, be comfortable. I'm thankful you're still at work. Matter of fact, why are you at work? Can we take down a couple hours? What can we do here? You know, how can I help you? Because he's also on the outside, he was a great dad. So he had that perspective. But for me, watching him take care of my wife in the Air Force changed my perspective on how I was going to treat my female subordinates that were pregnant, right? Because before that, I had no idea. That was a blind spot, but I didn't know it was a blind spot until I saw it, and I was intimately engaged in that and how well he was treating my wife. That's what right looks like. So that's how I am going to move going forward, right? But I know it's a blind spot because it's a blind spot. We don't know about our blind spots unless you're actively seeking them out. So that's how I move. You don't know that you have a blind spot. So if you come afoul of me, usually I assume it's because you don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that changes how I think about it. I don't get offended easily.
Right.
Do I get offended? Yeah, I get offended, but not easily because a large preponderance of the time, it's not intentional. So let's take care of it at the lowest level first. I mean, I grew up in North Georgia. I was like one of 2 black kids in my high school. And I have such good friends, from there. But there were definitely difficult times growing up there. But then as those same people that were giving me a hard time got to know me on the baseball team, on the basketball team, in shop class, in our junior ROTC, whatever, all of that changed because they just didn't know what they didn't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Ignorance. Yeah.
And especially as a high school kid, that changes the way you move for life. That changed my perspective on how I interact and how I deal with things. So now I know if you don't know, all right, let's give you time. And that also my relationship. So my wife's dad was leery of me at first, but I knew in time, I'm a pretty good dude. I have my own foibles. I have my own issues, but I loved his daughter and I treated her right. And I always was. And in time, he started to see that. And now we're best friends, And that keeps repeating itself in very cool ways. So every time it happens, it renews my faith in the human spirit. It renews my faith in the fact that it's possible that even when we see things and we stumble, we keep it moving, because things are, and I know there'll be a bunch of people that don't agree with me, but things are better than they were 50 years ago. Things are better than they were 30 years ago. I mean, my mom was bused to school. It wasn't that long ago, And do we have things that still need to continue to move and change? Yeah. And we're going to have those conversations, and we're having those conversations. And is it fast enough? I don't think it'll ever be fast enough for, absolute equality. But the fact that we're having those conversations, I think is cool. And I am impressed by the way that specifically the Air Force has been handling this.
Yeah, they definitely have been attacking it like head on. You mentioned blind spots, and I got to bring this up, man, because I was on cloud 9 to witness it. On February 19th, we had the first ever all African American JSTARS flight ever.
Right. Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I've heard whispers here and there. Not everybody was happy about it. There were some people that said, how can they put that much time and effort into this? And one, I want to hear your take on it, because we were obviously honoring the Tuskegee Airmen, and they're a huge, huge, huge accomplishments.
Right.
And I want you to kind of feel that blind spot for people and let them know why that had to happen.
Sure. And if you remember, I told you guys, like, not only in the first in the world, the U.S., but then also in the Air Force, because the Air Force is a microcosm of the communities we come from. that there were going to absolutely be 10% of people that were, no matter what we say, we're going to hate on that, right? It was going to happen. We had to go in knowing that. And that's okay, because we're all different. We all move differently. And that's what makes us this great melting pot, right? So as much as I celebrate freedom of speech and what we fight for, I have to celebrate the fact that people feel comfortable saying whatever, doing whatever, being a part of whatever group they're a part of, even if I am vehemently opposed to that group, right? Because that's what we fight for. So, but you have to know it's out there. You have to know that the boogeyman's out there and they're coming, you know? And so what I would say is that was, man, I'm trying to come up with the number, but I can't remember now. It was the anniversary of the Tuskegee Airmen being inducted into the Air Force. 79, that's right. 79th anniversary of the Tuskegee Airmen getting inducted into the Air Force, or the Army Air Corps anyway. Next year's the 80th anniversary, and that's pretty cool. And on JSTARS, we have so many crew positions to fill that it's taken this long for us to have enough to be able to do that. And it's crazy because, you know, some of the comments were, what if, or what would happen if we had an all-white sortie? You know, like, what if that happened? I mean, people would go crazy, right? That was last Tuesday, just to be honest, like, because it's just natural, and that's the way it happens. And that's okay, right? Like, we have to understand that in order to grow the Air Force in diversity, we have to advertise that, look how it's growing. Look how we're growing. As African-American aviators, that's such a small percentage of the Air Force that we have to continue recruiting efforts in order to make it known that this is possible. You know, it was important for my son to see that. You know, it's important, and not only for my son, for future generations, but it was important for my uncle who fought in Vietnam. It was important for him to see that. Like, he cried. He thought it was a beautiful thing. And it was a tribute, right? So you can take a negative from pretty much anything. But in this one, the positives outweighed the negatives because it took a whole team. It took all of my commanders who happen to all be white right now, and that's cool. And they supported it, and they had our backs in that one, and I will never forget it. Like, they came up to bat for us, and I appreciate it, and made that moment happen. And when we landed, who was on the ground waiting for us? Our teammates, our white teammates, our Hispanic teammates, our Asian teammates were all waiting. When the doors opened, they were on the ground and they were cheering because it was a moment for all of us. It was not about the exclusive photo, because that's what people see. They see an exclusive photo of all African-American maintainers, aviators, the admin troops that pushed us out the door. So yeah, I see it. The photo looks exclusive, but in order to make it happen, it took a whole team. And we have such a great team here at JSTARS that made it happen. And we make it happen every day, grinding. And I think it's easy for, especially, you know, outside of it to go, you know, what we did took away from all of that. But it really just added to that. And we flew a mission, an actual training mission. We got evaluations done. We got training done. I mean, I personally was riding the lieutenant that was working the radar, because I've been on the 1s and 2s for quite some time, and I was able to pass some knowledge down, and that's pretty cool. But then on the other side of it, we don't get to fly together that often because there's just not that many of us. So to be able to put us all on one crew, it was also good for our spirit, because it's like, cool, I'm so glad that I got to fly with you. I'm so glad I got to fly with her. There are dudes that I grew up with that I haven't flown with more than like twice. And it was so cool to fly with them, you know? on that sortie was two of my like very best friends, right? Lieutenant Colonel Chris Banks. He is like one of the best pilots in this wing, you know? And it was so cool to share that moment with him. I've never flown with Chris before. We've been in JSTARS off and on for the better part of, a decade, together. I'd never flown with him before. That was kind of cool. And then the instructor, mission crew commander, Colonel Rich Holt, my guy, he was my roommate when we were lieutenants. We'd never flown together. You know what I mean? Because when you talk about blind spots, what people on the outside also don't see, or people that aren't necessarily paying attention the way that we're paying attention because we see it, is that even though our crews are so large, when I go to a crew brief, and I notice because as a mission crew commander, I'm doing the briefing, is when I look out, usually I only see one other person that looks like me. And that's okay. And that's okay because I love everyone. I do. But that one was different because I looked out and everybody looked like me. And it was kind of cool that that's even possible. And we've come such a long way in not only recruiting and retention and everything else to be able to make that possible. We're also celebrating that fact. Like, nice job, Air Force. Way to make this happen. This is kind of cool. And then you send that to the ROTC units and the kids in ROTC go, oh, that's a thing. Maybe we should try that. Because aviation is sometimes intimidating. And when you haven't been exposed to it, you're not willing to try it. So you go finance instead of jumping in straight in and getting your wings. But when you see something like that, you go, maybe I'm going to try that. And that's how we grow the numbers in aviation. And that's cool. So people can hate on it all they want. I'm down with that. Like, yes, if you see something that you think is wrong, come on. But also on the other side of it, I'm going to try to say, I see your perspective, but here's another one. And hopefully we can dialogue and go back and forth and come to a conclusion that's like, okay, maybe this was worthwhile. There was one dude online, and I know I told y'all specifically, I was like, hey, don't feed the trolls, right? Like, don't entertain this. There was one that I had to, okay? I had to, like, it was a friend of a friend, and they just went off, like, I'm the victim of affirmative action and I've lost jobs and whatnot because even though I was more qualified, I didn't get the job because they were trying to get somebody, a minority in there. And so this is just another one of those. Meet the quota kind of thing, right? And so for that, it's funny, but I empathize. As stupid as that sounds, I empathize because I too have lost out on opportunities because of my skin color. So instead of being mad, I go, you know what, dude? I get it. I empathize with you. And I'm sorry that you see this that way, but this was not that. This was, and I just laid it out and we had a good dialogue back and forth. And by the end, he was like, cool, and blind spots. It always goes back to that to me. And when we see each other as just human beings trying to kick it and make it through the world, it changes perspectives. Because I don't want it because of my skin color. You know what I mean? Like, if I get command, I want it to be because I deserve it, because I work hard, because I build people up, because I care about them so much that it hurts me when they don't do well, right? And I want to do it by the book, and I want to be able to admin, and I want to be able to create aviators that are ready to go out the door and serve this nation. Period. Dot. White, black, green, yellow, purple, blue, I don't care. Green flight suits, because I like those better than the OCPs. Sorry.
You got some haters after that.
Oh, absolutely. Zip it up. Let's get on the jet. and let's fight for freedom. Like, let's go. That's what I want. And I think that's what most of us want, you know, or in the Air Force.
For sure.
In the Air Force.
Man. And when it comes to diversity and inclusion, man, sometimes it's just hard for people to come to the table and have a conversation because maybe they didn't have the best experience with a certain type of people, right?
Fact.
But as long as we just had a standout day, so
yeah.
And you kind of asked me like, hey, how did it go? And I thought overall it went well.
Yeah.
At least we're headed in a positive direction. Got some good dialogue going, and it's a start.
Right.
And I told you we'll never know. There'll never be one answer to this problem that we have, but I'm very proud of the Air Force for at least addressing it and meeting it head on, because we're doing some good stuff right now.
Doing some great things. And it's funny how in the microcosm that is a squadron in the Air Force, caring about airmen changes the dialogue. I think I just said something profound. That just hit me like in the right way. You know what I'm saying? That just hit me in the right way. Caring about airmen changes the dialogue. When it's talking about that extremist stuff, or we're talking about race relations, or we're talking about resiliency, right? The culture of that squadron changes it. Because, like, if I'm a commander and your command team's on board and you're all about caring for your airmen and taking time, and you're talking to your flight commanders constantly about taking the time to know the airmen, and they're in your office and they feel comfortable with you, and you've built trust, speed of trust, Covey, right? You're taking the time, and you're doing it different, right? It's different now. So I get on a soapbox all the time. And so when I raise my kids, it's different than when I was raised. When I was raised, I was out in the woods until streetlights came on. That's a lot of trust that my parents had in me. Now, my son, he's about to turn 12 and he can't go outside the yard. It's different. Also, in my neighborhood, any other parent, any other adult got that respect because they could punish you on the spot. My mom would double stamp that. Like, oh, Miss Smith said you was acting up. She said she had to give you a whooping. Now you're gonna get it too again, or you're grounded. Right? They backed each other up. It took a community. It took a village. That ain't happening anymore. We kind of teach our kids that if it's not your mom or your dad, leery, right? So our kids are naturally growing up not trusting other people. And then add to that, possibly not the police either. Who do you trust? There are some kids that don't trust anybody. My kids trust the police. They trust our neighbors. They trust adults. Like, because we're trying to build that back, right? But it's hard, because my wife likes to watch the next 48 hours or 48 hours or whatever, those crime shows. And here we are in Memphis, Tennessee, crime scene. Like, no, don't do that. You're just wigging yourself out on, statistics, right? So I've always been a trust person, and I lose that, I would say 8 out of 10 times in my house, and that's okay. But that's how we're raising our kids. So when I talk to an airman, when there's another airman across the table from me, I'm not immediately going, hey, are you married? You have kids? What's your mom's name? What do your parents do? What's your favorite thing? All of that stuff. Because they don't trust me yet. Kids don't trust me just because I'm a lieutenant colonel. They don't necessarily they respect the rank, right? But they don't trust that yet. So the first thing I do is I'm like, hey, this is my wife. These are my kids. This is how old they are. This is what we're battling with sometimes, And depending on how I read it, I'll go in and I'll just make myself a little vulnerable, right? And then that will allow them maybe to make themselves a little vulnerable. And now we're building a little bit of trust right there, right? But then that has to happen over time. And I have to continue communications with these airmen, just like, okay, we're building that. And I have to teach my flight commanders that too. Here's how you build rapport. Here's how you build trust. This is the risks you're taking by being vulnerable. So never, ever forget that you're taking a risk by putting yourself out there. I'm taking a risk by being on camera, but that's okay if it gets to the right people and it helps them, you know, because there are always going to be haters. There are always going to be people that are, I've never started a job that they haven't gone, Tyni, look, you're great, but you've got to change. You know, you can't be you and be a flight commander. And then by the end of it, it's like, don't change. Wow. Like the way that you care for people, you're taking a risk, but they really respond to that. That's awesome. Ooh, next job. You can't be that. Like tone that down, you know, don't do it. Then the end comes. Wow. Do that. Keep connecting with people. That's awesome. Right? Because we're also changing a culture. We're changing a culture. Because it is risky. When I was with the Army in Kansas and I told them like, hey, if I'm flying and my A1C radar technician says, boss, I can get this radar going. Let's stay on station, right? And I call back to the KAOC and I'm like, hey, we need 30 more minutes. We're going to try to work this out. I just took what this airman said and made a decision off of it. They're like, ooh, we would never do that. And I'm like, that's the expert on the radar. I have to trust him. If I don't trust him, then why is he on the jet? And so there are different cultures and we're trying to break through those. So how do we lead? And it's a constant evolution, right? And right now, one of the fields that's growing is emotional intelligence, right? Like trying to feel and respond to others and how they are perceiving what you're throwing out there. And how you're perceiving what they're throwing out there. But I ask you this, where is EQ on an OPR?
0.
You can't tell if somebody has any kind of level of EQ on a performance report. So what is on a performance report? Tasks, right? How good of a task person are you? Can you get the thing done? It doesn't say, how did you get the thing done? I rode my airmen into the ground to get said thing. Well, you got the thing done, so great job, right? So we have to break through that. And I think commanders are doing a better job kind of seeing how the thing was done, how the task was accomplished, because that's important. Because if we can't get buy-in of our airmen, even at the lowest, like especially at the lowest level, what are we doing? Like, and I'm not saying like this isn't still the Air Force and it's because I said so. But if I have time, I'm going to follow that up with a Simon Sinek, right? I'm going to be like, well, here's why. Because then when it is time for me to, you know, get my mom out and be like, because I said so. They're like, well, normally Colonel Pina tells me why. So this must be an instance where he doesn't have time or it's important and I just need to get it done. So I'm just going to trust him because we built that and I'm going to get it done. What? Yes, that's what I want. And I want them to go forth with that, like with vigor, like, yes, I trust my leadership. So I'm going to run through this brick wall because I know in the past, they've always laid it out why this was happening. And they know me and I know that they want what's best for me in the future as well. So I'm going to go get this thing, right? That's how you build motivated airmen that are ready for war, right? And by the way, by giving them autonomy and being their top cover and letting them figure out how to get that task done themselves, what else are you building? A leader. You're building your replacement because you're able to watch and take notes and go, ooh, that kid may be young, but he's ready for upgrade. Ooh, she is just, smart. I need to put her here so that she can shine and do the thing, right? Wow, that person is an amazing whole leader. That's my, you have your positional leader. that is the leader of the squadron. He's got the squadron's heart in his hand, and I'm going to let that happen, right? Let me back up a little bit from my position and go, hey, I need this done in the squad.